Good evening, everyone. I see a few people who are still being seated. And I'll say good evening again. I am Persephone McDaniels, Graduate Dean at Jackson State University, and the new board chair for the Mississippi Humanities Council. Thank you. On behalf of the board, I am super excited to welcome you to the 2022 Public Humanities Awards. Tonight, we honor outstanding scholars, teachers, and organizations who have made significant contributions to the public humanities in Mississippi. Allow me to pause and recognize that we are here together in person for the first time since 2019. Over the last 2 years, the pandemic has taught us not to take these gatherings for granted. While technology and virtual programs have helped to keep us connected, we know how effective and meaningful in-person interactions really are. So we thank you for joining us in person tonight. This year, the Mississippi Humanities Council is celebrating 50 years of serving the people of our state. As part of this milestone, we recently launched a new logo, you can see it right here, which reflects how the council empowers communities across Mississippi to share their own stories and fosters civil discussions about our history and culture. Like Mississippi, our new logo is colorful, and it highlights the importance of conversation, connection, and understanding different perspectives. In short, it represents the power of the humanities. Throughout our 50th year, the Council will be supporting public programs presented on the theme, Reflecting Mississippi, in order to look at how our stories have or have not reflected who we are as a people, and to encourage efforts to reflect our history more accurately. This is why it is especially appropriate that we meet this evening in the two Mississippi museums. Since their opening over 4 years ago, these museums have been a model on how to tell Mississippi's story honestly and inclusively. By not shying away from the darker parts of our state's history, these museums reflect the best Mississippi. We thank our friends at the Mississippi Department of Archives and History for their fine work and for hosting us tonight. To begin our program, I would like to introduce the Executive Director of the Mississippi Humanities Council, Dr. Stewart Rokoff. Please welcome him to the podium, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. McDaniels. 50 years ago, leaders of our state's institutions of higher learning traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with the National Endowment for the Humanities to discuss the creation of a state humanities program here in Mississippi. After returning, they founded the Mississippi Committee for the Humanities. And they did that to bring the benefits of the humanities, things like deep thinking, civil conversation, empathy, and understanding, to bring those benefits to a state that was undergoing significant social change. This was, after all, 1972. Over the past 50 years, we have remained focused on serving the people of Mississippi and our core belief that the humanities are for everyone. And let me tell you a wonderful example of that. This past month, we have been leading a book discussion group with incarcerated students at the Mississippi State Penitentiary at Parchman. Led by our board member, Dr. Ebony Lumumba, the students have been reading Jesmyn Ward's award-winning novel, Sing, Unburied Sing, which explores, among other things, the haunted history of Parchman. Earlier today, Jesmyn Ward joined the class via Zoom. She was supposed to be there for 30 minutes. She stayed the entire time. And I didn't get to participate, so I'm excited to hear about it later. But We are excited that all of us will be able to hear Jesmyn Ward when she delivers our keynote 50th anniversary address on May 5th at Galloway Methodist Church. There's a card plugging it in your booklet. We hope that you are all able to join us for this free event, which will explore our 50th anniversary theme of Reflecting Mississippi. While we are focusing on this theme throughout the year, the truth is we have always supported programs that have highlighted our state's diverse stories and examined how our narratives have or have not reflected accurately who we are and where we've been. And you'll hear about some of these programs tonight. And just another program that we are excited to launch is part of the National Endowment for the Humanities More Perfect Union Initiative, which was started by John Peedy, I believe, which was to help prepare us for the upcoming 250th anniversary of the country's founding. So we are doing a project that we are calling A More Perfect Union, the Mississippi Founders. And we will be recognizing and highlighting Mississippians who fought to make the ideals of America's founding a reality here in Mississippi. We will have a traveling exhibit, podcasts, and starting very soon, in fact, starting this week, short interstitial broadcasts on Mississippi Public Television. Above all, we were founded 50 years ago to help support the cultural institutions of our state. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we distributed over $1 million in federal aid to help Mississippi museums, historical societies, and cultural organizations keep their lights on, keep their staffs paid during a time of economic hardship. And here is where I brag. We were quick, efficient, and effective in distributing these CARES and American Rescue Plan funds. I should brag some more. Even as we were planning all last year for our 50th anniversary year. And indeed, one major goal for our 50th anniversary is the establishment of our first ever endowment fund. This Humanities Innovation Fund will enable us to launch new public programs each year, things like our Parchman Book Discussion Group and our Mississippi Founders Project. We have created a fund at the Community Foundation for Mississippi with some of our reserves, which we are aiming to supplement with a special fundraising campaign. I'm pleased to announce that the Community Foundation for Mississippi has given us a $50,000 challenge grant, meaning if we can raise $50,000 for this fund, they will match it. And so I would also like to thank the Phil Hardin Foundation and its executive director, Lloyd Gray, for giving us a great head start toward this goal with the $15,000 grant. So I know it's a bit gauche to sort of make a direct fundraising appeal, especially during an event for which you've bought a ticket. But I want to encourage you to help us meet our goal. And know that your donation will be matched, 1-for-1, will be doubled by the Community Foundation for Mississippi. In fact, if you make your donation tonight, either by check or via PayPal on our website link on your phone, we will be happy to give you our new 50th anniversary t-shirt and mug as a thank you gift. See, we learned from MPB as well. After the ceremony, there is a table right outside the door, and we will be happy to help you with that. This is the first time in my time here that we've actually made t-shirts and mugs, so please don't prove me wrong. So I am only the third director in the 50-year history of the Mississippi Humanities Council. But this tradition of long tenures pales in comparison with that of Brenda Thigpen Gray. Last month, Brenda retired as the council's finance director after 43 years of service. Brenda started working for the council in 1979 as a young graduate of Jackson State University, assisting our founding director, Dr. Cora Norman, in the work of bringing the humanities to the people of Mississippi. Over time, Brenda took on more and more responsibilities, culminating in her becoming our finance director. Brenda worked closely with Cora's successor, Dr. Barbara Carpenter, helping to ensure that the council used its resources wisely and this is the most important part, in accordance with federal rules. Brenda always kept us and our grantees on the straight and narrow. She used her years of experience to help train many new staff members over the years, including yours truly, 8.5 years ago when I got here. So Brenda, I guess that my training period finally ended last month. And so, I would like to start the evening by giving our first award to Brenda Thigpen Gray for her historic career at the Mississippi Committee for the Humanities and the Mississippi Humanities Council. Brenda, please. Do you want me to give us a promise?
Thank you. Thank you, Stewart. I sincerely appreciate receiving this award from the Mississippi Humanities Council. I was blessed 43 years ago to begin my career with the organization the very next day after graduating from Jackson State University, as Stewart has already said. I am very fortunate to have worked with so many talented and wonderful coworkers and colleagues during these years. I especially owe a debt of gratitude to former MHC board chair, the late Dr. Esther Smith, for recommending me for employment, and to the former and first MHC executive director, the late Dr. Cora Norman, for hiring me. I have truly enjoyed working at the MHC and have had many rewarding experiences. I will always be grateful for my time there. I wish the entire staff, board, and all humanities supporters nothing but the best for the future. I know that you will continue to work, fund, and support public humanities programs in this state that enrich grassroots communities, explain our history and culture, and encourage discussion about diversity, equity, inclusion, and civility. Many thanks to all of you for being here tonight to celebrate this retirement milestone in my life, especially my husband, Thomas. Other family, friends, and longtime colleagues, I am honored, and thank you. Thank you.
So you may have noticed that Brenda was given a beautiful award. So I would like to recognize the artist who actually created our awards this year, Rob Cooper. Rob, are you in the building? Somewhere, right there he is over there. You can read more about Rob and how his design was inspired by our 50th anniversary theme in your program. And now, I would like to call up Dr. Douglas Sullivan Gonzalez, the Vice Chair of the Mississippi Humanities Council, to recognize our Humanities Teacher Award winners. There we go.
Dr. McDaniels, Dr. Rokoff, thank you very much. Each year, the Mississippi Humanities Council honors an outstanding humanities teacher at each of our state institutions of higher learning. These award winners are selected by the president or humanities dean of their school. Each winner receives a cash award from the council, and they're invited to present an original lecture on the humanities subject of their choice. The titles of those presentations are printed in the program. I encourage you to read them as they are a wonderful representation of the wide scope of humanities education in our state. We are pleased that most of this year's winners are with us this evening. It's my honor to present the 2022 Humanities Teacher Award winners. As I call your name, please rise, remain standing. Audience members, please hold your applause until the end. We'll begin with Will Bowlen, Northeast Mississippi Community College. Delisa Brand, East Mississippi Community College. Dr. Alan Clark, University of Mississippi. Dr. Eric Dogini, Alcorn State University. Ashley Dugas, Copiah Lincoln Community College. Melanie Eubanks, Jones College. Terrence Evans, Tougaloo College. There we go. Thank you, filling in the gap, appreciate it. Chanel Frazier, Coahoma Community College. Mark Guile, Jackson State University. Mark. Dr. Kristen Golden, Millsaps College. There you go. Dr. Max Grivno, University of Southern Mississippi. Jeannie Hargett, Mississippi Delta Community College. Ann Lacey Johnson, Meridian Community College. Dr. Nancy Kearns, Blue Mountain College. There you go. Dr. Lynn Knutson, Mississippi Valley State University. Dr. Jonathan Kofod, Belhaven University. LaShonda Levy, Holmes Community College. Cheryl Makeda, William Carey University. Don Allen Mitchell, Delta State University. James Keith Morris, Itawamba Community College. Heather Peerboom, Pearl River Community College. Dr. Judith Reidner, Mississippi State University. Dr. Ann Scott, Rusk College. Justin Sharp, East Central Community College. Allison Stafford, Hines Community College. Christopher Tingle, Northwest Mississippi Community College. Dr. Tammy Townsend, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Dr. Daniel White, Mississippi College. Dr. Brandy Wilson, Mississippi University for Women. Ron Wilson, Southwest Mississippi Community College. Did I leave anybody off? Did I get everybody? Folks, let's give these Humanities Teacher Award winners a big round of applause. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brother Rogers, but I'm not a preacher. I work here at the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, but I'm here tonight as a member of the Board of Directors of the Mississippi Humanities Council. It's my high honor to be able to present the Humanities Scholar Award. The Humanities Scholar Award recognizes scholars who have made significant contributions to the public humanities in Mississippi. The 2022 award is going to Dr. Daphne Chamberlain, who is the Associate Professor of History and Vice President for Special Initiatives and Social Justice at Tougaloo College. Dr. Chamberlain earned her PhD in history from the University of Mississippi, with a special emphasis on the role of young people in the Mississippi Civil Rights Movement. Her work as a public scholar has centered on sharing the movement's inspiring lessons with young people today. What a great thing to do. She was the founding director of the COFO Civil Rights Education Center at Jackson State University, where she used this historic space not only to teach students, as we would expect, but to teach members of the general public about Mississippi's freedom struggle. After several years at COFO, Dr. Chamberlain moved to Tougaloo College, incidentally, her alma mater. Despite her ever-growing administrative duties at Tougaloo College, Dr. Chamberlain, of course, remains an active public scholar. In fact, she consulted on the two Mississippi museums, the Museum of Mississippi History over here and the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. And if you want to watch her on video, then you can go over to the second floor of the Museum of Mississippi History, where there's a video about antebellum Mississippi, where she's speaking articulately and saying smart things that will impress you. I actually am particularly pleased to say that 2 weeks ago in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Dr. Chamberlain was elected as the new president of the Mississippi Historical Society. Her commitment to bridging the academic humanities with the general public led her to, guess where? The Mississippi Humanities Council, of course. She's an active member of the council's Speakers Bureau. Let me read this great talk that she gives, the title, The Emmett Till Generation, Youth Activism, Radical Protest, and Social Change in Jim Crow, Mississippi. She helped to organize and to moderate the Mississippi-Massachusetts Cross-State Conversation Program on the Civil Rights Movement. Does that sound interesting or what? And she's also been an advisor on the council's initiative known as More Perfect Union. But perhaps most importantly, Dr. Daphne Chamberlain has made herself available as a consulting scholar to work with recipients of grants from the Humanities Council, lending her expertise to many community organizations to help them preserve and share the important and untold Mississippi stories. So my friend Daphne is inspired by this quote from the late Nelson Mandela. Quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Her work as a public scholar shows her commitment to educating the public in Mississippi. And so it is my great honor tonight to present the 2022 Humanities Scholar Award to Dr. Daphne Chamberlain.
Brother, you read a lot of information, and I was like, who is that? But scholarship is produced in so many forms. And for me, it has been through so many projects that have been supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. And I'm not going to read everything I have on this paper because I think Brother read everything for me. But for me, the measure of that scholarship's impact is that that body of work uplifts the human spirit, improves the human condition, and acknowledges human dignity. The projects that I've been part of have all been impactful and all woven together to create this beautiful story of why I do what I do. It is rewarding to be a part of projects that touch people's lives. And through my association with these endeavors, I often received more than I gave. In closing, this honor is not mine alone to receive. I have a lot of people who sit in this room tonight. Dr. McLemore, I didn't know you would be here. Who have been an integral part of my personal and professional journey. and I'm grateful to each of them, especially my husband, Carlos, my brothers, Marcellus, Nicholas, my sister-in-law, Zakiya, Reagan, my cousin, my uncle, John Kelly, Burnell Kelly, my aunt, and my kids who are here unexpectedly, Casey and Colin. However, on this occasion, I humbly received this recognition in memory of my mother, Dr. Jean Chamberlain, who touched more lives than she could have imagined, and I hope I am able to live up to her accomplishments. So to Dr. Stewart Rokoff, Ms. Carol Anderson, and the board of the Mississippi Humanities Council, I am grateful to the work that you all do to support Mississippi stories, and I thank you all for this honor.
Good evening. I am Ebony Lumumba. It is a privilege to follow my sister, Daphne Chamberlain. Her work, her life, her spirit inspires me so much. And I'm grateful that she is doing everything that she does and touching so many lives. Thank you, sister, and congratulations. Speaking of inspiring work, I am honored and pleased to present tonight's Humanities Partner Award, which recognizes organizations that have collaborated with the Mississippi Humanities Council to provide programming that reaches new or expanded audiences. The Partner Award this year, drum roll, salutes New Hope Baptist Church, little church, y'all may have heard of it, for its annual Black History Month programming, exploring history and topics that engage public audiences in understanding the roles and contributions of African Americans in the cultural, social, and political life of our state. The New Hope Baptist Church, under the leadership of Pastor Dr. Jerry Young, envisioned a month-long series of programs and events with the express purpose of presenting historical, educational, humanitarian programs for not only its congregation, but for the Jackson community at large. The first, back in the day, Black history programs were presented in 2013 when Flonzie Brown Wright of the Black History Month Planning Committee approached the Mississippi Humanities Council for grant support for their programs in 2015. She collaborated with council staff to involve humanities scholars and themes to deepen their exploration of the role of African Americans in pushing for social change and equal rights. Each year since, and I mean every year, they have earned Humanities Council support for their Black History Month programs, which have drawn large, enthusiastic audiences. Their 2022 program theme, No Vote, No Voice, Your Choice, celebrated African Americans' overall progress in voting, but also addressed ongoing challenges accessing the ballot. And they do each year, they included programs to particularly engage our youth, providing a historical perspective on the challenges that have been overcome and the barriers that continue in the 21st century. For their outstanding Black History Month programs, they are firmly rooted in the humanities. We are more than pleased to present the 2022 Humanities Partner Award to New Hope Baptist Church under the leadership of Dr. Jerry Young, which is the pastor, and the committee under the leadership of Ms. Flonzie Brown Wright, who does all the heavy lifting, we know. Ms. Brown Wright, will you join me? And your entourage, everyone, you look beautiful.
Terrence, Mr. Miles, Mr. Terrence Miles, Gail, come on.
She said, come on. Hey, Annie.
Mr. Daphne, Miss Daphne, Dr. Burns, and great supporter, Mrs. Daphne.
Double the award for next year.
Thank you. Thank you so very much to Dr. Rokoff, Carol, the board, and the community. As you see, I am not Pastor Young. I have no speech prepared, but I can certainly say that we're so grateful and we're so honored that you thought enough of our work for 11 years to let the community know what's going on at New Hope. Our basic mission is to educate, inspire, and encourage people to learn the history and not only to learn it, but to share it. I may come up with the concept or the idea, but these are the people. These are the people who do the work. When I ask them to do something, it's never, well, why or why me? It's what else can I do? What else can I do? So I want to say to George Brooks, Ethel Brooks, Brenda Patterson, Robert Patterson, and come here, baby. This is our junior member. This is our junior member. This is Ava Lloyd, the daughter of Avis and Timothy Lloyd, because we are grooming her to carry on as time goes on. Mr. Terrence Miles and his wife Gail, we give an award every year in honor of Dr. Obadiah Miles, who was a member of our committee. And so Terrence and Gail are the son and daughter. Sister Thea Faulkner, who is the lieutenant governor of the Black History Committee. Did I miss somebody else? Reverend Wendell Parrish, is he here? He keeps us straight in the word, y'all. When we act up, he keeps us straight in the word. Oh, Zenobia Burns. Dr. Burns is a very great supporter and is also principal of the preschool at New Hope. So thank all of you, thank all of you, thank all of you. God bless you, and let's have a good evening. Oh. I'm going to do it anyway. Mr. Melvin Miller, who also signs our grant package, would you please stand? With his wife. With his wife. Stand up, wife. Stand up, wife. And if there are any more members from New Hope Church, would you stand? I know Dr. McDaniels. Okay. New Hope. In the house. In the house. Thank you so much for this prestigious award. Wait for me, honey.
Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Lang. I am a Mississippi Humanities Council board member, and I'm the former director of the Mississippi Book Festival. And it's a delight to be with you here all, and especially to present this award to Ralph Eubanks. When we started the book festival, my friend Jerry Nash, who is here, said to me, we will not be successful, or rather, we will be more successful if we engage Ralph as sort of our advisor and confidant, and he was right. So thank you for everything. This year, the Humanities Council has created a special Reflecting Mississippi Award in conjunction with our 50th anniversary theme. Ralph Eubanks was selected to receive this award in recognition of his work as an interpreter of Mississippi's complicated history and rich literary heritage. As a writer and scholar, Ralph has helped revise our state's narratives to reflect Mississippi more honestly and more accurately. Ralph is the author of the books Ever is a Long Time, A Journey into Mississippi's Dark Past, and The House at the End of the Road, the story of 3 generations of an interracial family in the American South, about his own family's experience in the South. In Ever is a Long Time, Ralph tells his own story of growing up in Mount Olive and the experiences of his parents as Black professionals working in rural Mississippi during the Jim Crow era. In recent years, Ralph has returned to his home state, working as a visiting professor at Millsaps College and at his alma mater, the University of Mississippi. He has become a vital part of the state's cultural life, working with the Mississippi Book Festival, the Oxford Conference for the Book, the Mississippi Humanities Council, and many other cultural institutions. Next week, he will deliver a keynote address at the Oxford Conference inspired by the Council's 50th anniversary theme of Reflecting Mississippi. Ralph has reflected and described Mississippi for national audiences in numerous essays in such publications as The New Yorker, The Washington Post, The Wall Street Journal, and National Public Radio. As a fellow at Harvard-Radcliffe Institute this year, he has highlighted the cultural and historical significance of the Mississippi Delta in perhaps the most northern place on earth, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Last year, he published A Place Like Mississippi, a journey through a real and imagined literary landscape, which beautifully captures how generations of Mississippi writers have been inspired by the landscape and fraught history of their home state. As a celebrated author and essayist, Ralph fits well within this literary tradition. And so it is my great honor to present the special Reflecting Mississippi Award to Ralph Eubanks.
Thank you very much to the Humanities Council. It's not something, I have to say that I was not anticipating an award like this. It's not something that I could even have imagined in the summer of 1972 when I was sitting at my watermelon stand on Highway 35 in Mount Olive, Mississippi, reading Faulkner's The Reivers, which is probably the most Faulknerian thing you could ever do. But I accept this award not as recognition, but as a challenge to write and think deeply about this place, this very complicated place that we call home. And when I was thinking about tonight, I thought about a homily I heard about 20 years ago, where the priest challenged the congregation to say, what would you say if they said, who do you say that you are? And I thought about that, what is it that we say when they say, who are we as Mississippians? So I would like to accept this award, this Reflecting Mississippi Award, in the spirit of not only challenging myself, but also challenging all of you to think about it. What do you say when they ask, who do we say that we are as Mississippians? We all reflect Mississippi, and I am so honored to receive this award tonight, and I hope that all of you will continue to reflect Mississippi well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tamika Simmons, a member of the MHC Board, and I am pleased to announce the recipient of this year's Preserver of Mississippi Culture Award, which recognizes outstanding efforts to interpret and preserve the history and culture of our state. The award this year celebrates the documentary film Fannie Lou Hamer's America, which was broadcast last month on National Public Television. The film brings the voice and story of an extraordinary Mississippian to national and international audiences. Fannie Lou Hamer, a sharecropper turned civil rights activist, was known for her powerful speeches, moving songs, and impassioned pleas for civil rights. Fannie Lou Hamer's America explores such themes as the injustice of growing up Black and poor, police brutality, white supremacist backlash to Black voter registration, quality health care and affordable nutrition for the poorest of the poor. Through the brilliant directing of Joy Davenport and the skillful production of Monica Land, Mrs. Hamer tells her own story in this documentary using archival audio and video footage recorded throughout her political and activist career. Viewers see the places Hamer delivered her impassioned speeches and hear her powerful voice singing songs that became anthems of the movement. More than simply a documentary film, the project in the spirit of Mrs. Hamer has worked to empower the young people of the Mississippi Delta to share their own stories with a civil rights curriculum for elementary and high school students and a summer filmmaking workshop. The project also hosts a rich website featuring a driving tour highlighting the locations where Hamer fought for civil rights. The Mississippi Humanities Council gave the film its very first grant back in 2018. And in all, we have supported the project with 3 grants, including a final one to help secure the broadcast rights to the historical footage used in the film. We are so proud of how the project has developed and how it continues to reach national audiences. Accepting the Preserver of Mississippi Culture Award tonight by pre-recorded video are director Joy Davenport and producer Monica Land.
I remember being really starstruck when I first met Miss Monica Land because she is kin to one of my great heroes, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. And I was even more excited when she asked if I wanted to be involved with telling that story of her great aunt and to be a part of the film team that would bring that to television. It was a distant dream back in 2012 when we took our first trip to shoot the statue ceremony. And it still felt distant in 2016 because we just hadn't figured out how to pay for the thing. And then the Mississippi Humanities Council came in and provided us with our first shot of funding that allowed us to produce trailers and organize our film team and produce a script. And all of that ultimately led to more funding, more opportunities, and the film, Fannie Lou Hamer's America, which premiered on PBS in February. And we have, in many ways, the Mississippi Humanities Council to thank for that. And in even more ways, we have Miss Monica Land to thank for that, for her tireless efforts. So I want to turn it over to her to say a few things about the project and about the MHC.
Well, first of all, Joy is being much just too kind and generous in her expressions, because this definitely has been a joint effort, one that the MHC is definitely an integral part of. When I first had the idea to do this film, I wasn't thinking about awards or accolades. I was simply thinking of my poor aunt and how this film could honor her and her memory in the best way possible. As I conferred with Joy, Dr. Megan Parker Brooks, and Dr. Davis Houck, we continually found more and more ways to do this with the educational website, the K through 12 curriculum, the workshops, the children's book, and the Brain Pop animated movie. And the ideas actually just keep on coming. And none of it, not one single part of it, including our film, Fannie Lou Hamer's America, would be possible without the unwavering support of the Mississippi Humanities Council, Dr. Stewart Rokoff, Ms. Carol Anderson. The MHC gave us, as Joy said, our very first grant, and we have received 2 more grants. They have continued to support us in this ongoing effort, and we are just so eternally grateful for that and for them taking a chance on us in this mission, our mission, to keep Aunt Fannie Lou's memory where it should be, at the forefront of the history books. Thank you all so very much.
Hello, I am not Dr. Ronnie Nettles, as your program says. He has a family illness. I'm Carol Anderson. I've been on the staff of the Humanities Council for a little while, and I am really honored to present the Humanities Educator Award to the Mississippi Delta Community College's Prison Education Program for providing 4 credit courses to incarcerated students at the Mississippi State Penitentiary at Parchman. In December 2020, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation awarded the council $375,000 to support community colleges to teach courses in prisons. And even as we celebrated the grant, no one was certain whether the educators could enter the facilities due to COVID-19. But under the leadership of President Tyrone Jackson, the Mississippi Delta Prison Education Team, including Vice President of Effectiveness and Enrollment, Dr. Ben Cloyd, and Vice President for Instruction, Teresa Webster, negotiated with the Department of Corrections, the Mississippi Department of Corrections, to offer classes via live streaming. Repeatedly, the Delta team proved their commitment to serve these incarcerated students. The Dean of Enrollment Management, Jay Gary, adapted the admissions process for applicants who did not have access to the internet to be able to enroll. He personally visited Parchman to enroll students, and despite delays, Delta refused to postpone classes and modified their academic schedule to meet prison needs. So from the IT to the library, the Delta team went the extra mile for these students. Delta has now offered 27 hours of various humanities courses to approximately 130 students. By relying on experienced, creative, and committed faculty, student success has been comparable to MDCC's primary student body. In course evaluations, Parchman students expressed gratitude, calling the experience life-changing. Others reflected on their new knowledge, including one history student commenting, quote, "Learning the real truth sometimes can be painful," while others just enjoyed the class. One of them wrote, "The best time I've had in years." Yeah. This spring, the Humanities Council is proudly funding 3 community colleges to teach at different prisons. We particularly are proud of the Mississippi Delta Community College for, at the height of the pandemic, blazing ahead with their work. It's my honor, therefore, to recognize the Mississippi Delta Community College Prison Education Program with the 2022 Humanities Educator Award.
Good evening. I'd like to start by expressing condolences from our president, Dr. Tyrone Jackson, who had a family illness today and so could not be with us, but he wanted to send his appreciation for this award. I'm Ben Cloyd, and on behalf of my dear colleagues and also some equally dear partners who don't work for Mississippi Delta Community College, I'll mention them in a minute. It's such an incredible honor to be celebrating with you here tonight. There are a lot of folks to thank, and we'll get to that shortly, but first, let me say this. Our college's mission statement has 2 main priorities that guide us in everything that we do. First, provide a quality education. Second, improve the community. The teaching and learning that has been taking place in our Parchman Prison program since spring of 2021 is the kind of work that absolutely fulfills our mission. More than that, this endeavor has truly been a life-changing experience, most importantly for the students, but also for all those involved with the project. There has been true collaboration from 4 major partners: our college, the Mississippi Department of Corrections, the Mississippi Community College Board, and of course, the Mississippi Humanities Council. By working together with our students, we are proud to be redefining what is possible, to be challenging old stereotypes, and to be encouraging as many people as possible to pursue their educational dreams. And the best is yet to come. MDC looks forward to inducting Parchman students into Phi Theta Kappa in future semesters. That's right. Can I tell them the title, the chapter name, Teresa Webster? It'll be Delta Epsilon. Working on getting those approved as we speak. That's the Honor Society for Community Colleges, for those who don't know what Phi Theta Kappa is. And even more to the eventual graduation of these highly talented and motivated students. As I said, many people have invested their time and support for this worthy project, so I'll keep the thanks very brief. The deepest thanks go to our students at Parchman, who have trusted us and committed themselves to doing the hard work that it takes to succeed in college-level academic courses. Over and over again, they are proving themselves to be great students, and they appreciate this opportunity so much. They just have one complaint about their classes. The classes are too short. Right alongside our students, thank you to the awesome instructors from our college who have embraced this unique teaching opportunity. To Candy Wheat, Derek Fears, Elizabeth Melton, Brenton King, Carrie Bennett, who is with us, and Jennifer Woodard, you are 2 teachers who inspire us all. I'm also grateful to my fellow administrators, Teresa Webster and Jay Gary, who are with us, who do what it takes behind the scenes to keep this program moving forward and growing. And Jason Zelke is our IT guru, who thanks and makes sure we never miss a beat when it comes to the technology that makes this elaborate project work. The non-college folks are just as important. Thank you to the entire Mississippi Department of Corrections for their trust and partnership, particularly Shanice Mabry, the Director of Education. At Parchman itself, Superintendent Morris and Nate Murphy are true friends. And special thanks go to Gwendolyn Williams, who's hiding back there. Thank you, Gwen. As well as Diana Washington and LaShonda Washington. These ladies truly go the extra mile. They use their own vehicles. They deliver the materials that make these classes go to the students. And we thank you for what you do on a day-to-day basis. Finally, to Dr. Rokoff, Carol Anderson, and Carla Faulkner, who I'm sure is hiding somewhere back there. And really the entire lifeblood that is Mississippi Humanities Council. Without your financial and logistical support for this program, this idea would still be on the drawing board. And so we just thank you for your belief in us and your friendship. And so I'll just conclude by saying thank you for the tremendous award, which we are honored to accept on behalf of the college, but really on behalf of our wonderful students. Thank you so much.
So, Mississippians, I looked this up, constitute less than 1% of America's population. And yet, of the 12 men and women who have served as chairs of the National Endowment for the Humanities, 2 of them, that's 17%, have been Mississippians. And it is my great honor to call up one of those chairmen, John Parrish Petey, who will present tonight's Cora Norman Award.
Good evening. I want to thank Dr. Stewart Rokoff and the Mississippi Humanities Council for the distinct honor of sharing remarks about Dr. Bill Ferris, recipient of the Cora Norman Award for his lifetime contributions to our state, and indeed our nation. I am in awe of Bill as a conservator of culture, a connector of people, a champion of civil rights for all and everyone. I respect Bill as a teacher. I admire him as a scholar. I revere him as a mentor. And I love him as a friend. 30 years ago, I had the pleasure of being educated by Bill when he was director of the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at Ole Miss. I was one of his graduate assistants after the release of the Encyclopedia of Southern Culture, the extraordinary work which he co-edited with Charles Reagan Wilson. And we, his students, saw firsthand the weight of the bureaucratic demands on Bill. Frankly, we worried that the countless hours he devoted to each of us, and including many of us that are here tonight, meant a film never shot, an interview never released, a book unwritten. Rather than focus on his own scholarship, Bill went on to serve his nation as chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities. He had a transformative impact on the agency. A Delta blues scholar and folklorist, he spoke of, quote, the porous membrane between oral and written traditions, unquote, and he challenged the NEH to see the value in both the spoken word and sacred works. He also had the forethought to establish funding for the nascent field of the digital humanities. Along with Bill Ivey and Dana Gioia, Bill Ferris helped to bring peace in the cultural wars that had wounded both the reputations and budgets of the NEA and NEH. Appointed by President Clinton, he stayed to finish his term under President Bush. In a city of ideologues, he remained an educator. When I became NEH chairman, I asked Bill of his views on various complex matters, which he graciously provided. F. Scott Fitzgerald famously said, "There are no second acts in American lives." But after his NEH tenure, Bill Ferris had a second act, and a third, and a fourth. Stepping back into the past in order to move forward, Bill did what he does best. He told stories. Judiciously curating an archive built up over an astonishing career, Bill released 4 award-winning books of photographs and interviews in a mere decade. Give My Poor Heart Ease, The Storied South, The South in Color, and the Grammy Award-winning book and multimedia publication, Voices of Mississippi. Many of his most compelling portraits in these works are of female artists such as Eudora Welty and Margaret Walker and Alice Walker and the little-known gospel singer Fannie Bell Chapman. Now, I hazard to acknowledge that Bill wrote these books while in exile in the Yankee wilderness of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We must forgive this, for as our late friend Will Campbell said, we are all sinners. During his long tenure there, Bill and his proteges recentered the University of North Carolina in conversations about Southern identity. And by depositing more than 250,000 archival records at UNC, Bill made a great collecting library into an extraordinary one. All this is to say that the Honorable William R. Ferris is our nation's foremost living interpreter of Southern culture. And what of the person? Bill is a man of parts, to use an old phrase, and yet somehow the sum is greater than the parts. He was raised on a farm outside of Vicksburg in an accomplished and loving family. Though he was not destined for farm work, there is much about the farmer within Bill Ferris, such as the habit of mind to listen more than he talks, to study his surroundings with, to quote him, an appreciative but wary eye, unquote, and to preserve the old way of life while steadfastly seeking its improvement. Bill, as well as his wife Marcy, has a farmer's habit of being constantly at work. With uncharacteristic humbleness, Faulkner said that he merely wrote about his little postage stamp of native soil. At play in the very same fields of the Lord, Bill Ferris has produced his own bountiful harvest, and it will nourish our state long after we all have left this beloved terrain. On behalf of the Mississippi Humanities Council, please join me in acknowledging the devoted life, unwavering values, and enduring legacy of Bill Ferris.
Thank you all. Tonight and every time I speak at a Mississippi Humanities Council meeting, I look out and I say, the times, they are a-changing. And thank God they are. As we meet in the two museums, it would have been, when I was growing up, unimaginable to witness in a museum the history of civil rights in this state. The most things that we remembered were a fake mummy and the trains running on tracks at Christmas. For a child, that was interesting. But it was not like standing in a room of lynched black people and absorbing that horrible history. And what brings us to that is all of you with your commitment, black and white, to telling the truth, the stories. So I'm here tonight to tell you how honored I am to have a chance to be here with my wife, Marcy Cohen Ferris, and so many family and friends, including my Hall cousins, who took the train from Chicago to Jackson in a reverse migration. I want to thank my beloved friend and former student, John Peedy, for his work as chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities. John led the agency during what we might call a challenging administration. And I want to praise Stewart Rokoff and the Mississippi Humanities Council staff. No organization is more dedicated to our state and to telling the truth about who we are and have been and will be as Mississippians. It is especially meaningful to receive the Cora Norman Award. I first met Cora when she was appointed as the first director of the Mississippi Humanities Council in the early 70s. And you share her vision. She did not know the meaning of the word no. She fought and won every battle for this great agency. I grew up on a farm outside Vicksburg, and my earliest memories are of the voices that shaped and influenced and defined the course of my life. My father was a farmer who often told me, you can learn a lesson from every person you meet in life. My mother often reminded me that facts for the goose are not facts for the gander. Mary Gordon took me as a young child to the Rose Hill Church each first Sunday on the farm and taught me to love the hymns and sermons. When I realized that there were no hymnals in the church, that the hymns were all sung from memory, I began to record and photograph and film the services to preserve them. Thus began my career as a folklorist. I recorded the voices of Ray Lum, master storyteller and auctioneer, of James Sunford Thomas, blues artist. And so a career began without my knowing what to call it, which was to fall in love with the people and the stories who made me a person. These voices are the foundation of Mississippi's rich literary and musical legacy. The Council has long supported and underwritten those voices in special ways. My wife, Marcy, worked with many of you during her time at the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience. Both Marcy and I follow with special pride how you carry the torch forward for the humanities through the amazing leadership of Pamela Jr. and Katie Blunt here at the two museums and at the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. These museums exist because of fundraising led by our dear friend, Holly Wagner. You get a little water? We especially admire Katie McKee, the first woman to direct the University of Mississippi Center for Southern Culture, and the beautiful voice of Ralph Eubanks, whom we heard earlier. There are many friends here tonight, many more than I can acknowledge, but a few I want to just mention briefly. Chiquita Willis, who did her MA in Southern Studies, and the topic of her thesis was Black sacred harp music. So she was doing research in my field work and came across, to her and my amazement, a photograph I had taken of her when at the age of 14 she was singing sacred harp music in a black church in Bellefontaine, Mississippi. And after graduating, she went on to teach at Rust College. Chiquita, where are you? Thank you. Someone else who needs no introduction to anyone in this room, I met when I taught at Jackson State. He was an icon on campus. He drove a little sports car with the top down, and he sat in it with a large gray afro, prematurely gray. Dr. Leslie McLemore. Robert Walker, who was also beginning a distinguished history career at Jackson State, and after which he became 3 times the mayor of my town, of Vicksburg, where we both grew up. This morning, I met with Robert and with Mayor George Leggs in the town hall and was honored there. But what really happened there that I am so grateful to George and to the mayor for is that they are now committed to purchasing the home of Dr. Jane McAlexander, who was the first black woman to receive the PhD in education from Columbia University. And she went on to have a distinguished, long teaching career, the last few decades of which were at Jackson State. She is more than just an extraordinary person. She is an icon of what the key, they gave me the key to the city. She gave her students the keys to the highway of life, because I don't have to ask any of you, there is someone in your past or multiple someones who told you to get back in that room and finish whatever you were doing and stay in school, as James Brown would say. I can name them, and so can you. And Dr. McAllister will be honored in a museum in which she lived in Vicksburg. And I won't go into the long list of distinguished Vicksburgers and Mississippians who are leading our nation, like Stacey Abrams. People associate appropriately with Georgia, but her roots are in Hattiesburg. Or Carrie Mae Weems, the MacArthur award-winning photographer whose roots are in Clarksdale. And the list goes on. These are women and leaders who are changing the future of our nation. And they do so on the shoulders of people like each of you and people like Fannie Lou Hamer, B.B. King, the long list of names that are internationally beloved. And last but not least, James and Judy Meredith. James and Judy were with us a few years ago in Montpellier, France, when we opened an exhibition called I Am a Man, that looked at a decade of photographs in the 60s that changed our nation. And he was lionized at that, because everyone in France knew his name long before he arrived for that opening. And he has continued. He put all his papers at the University of Mississippi. I was there. And someone asked him, why here when they tried to keep you out? He said, this is where the rich white folks send their children to be educated. It's important that they see the truth about what happened here, and my papers will help make that happen. So there are so many voices to honor here tonight, and it's really important that I talk about how each of you helps us to realize the dream, because you and those whom I've mentioned are but a few of the many stars that brighten the humanities nightlight tonight in all of our state. You help us realize the dream that Merle Evers Williams and Governor William Winter worked to achieve for our state. A dream that we will one day build a bridge across the troubled waters in which we have lived for too long. And there is no better way to construct that bridge than the humanities. As we witness the horrific destruction every day of a people and their culture in Ukraine, today we understand the power of the humanities and see ever so clearly the importance of your work. You know in your hearts the power of these voices, and you honor and support their diverse cultures in ways that transform all our lives. You wisely do this work because Mississippi is blessed with the richest vein of humanities on the planet. Thank you for your beautiful work and for honoring me with the Cora Norman Award. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Bill. That was quite beautiful. Before we close tonight, I would like to again encourage you to help us with the Humanities Innovation Fund. All the donations will be matched by the Community Foundation for Mississippi, and if you donate tonight, you will receive official MHC merchandise. I will also tell you that if you're not facing a long drive home tonight, I encourage you to join the MHC staff at an unofficial after party on the rooftop bar of the Old Capitol Inn just across the street. Now, I will tell you, though, and I figured this out today, that if you're parked in the parking garage, you need to move your car lest you be locked in overnight. So if you'd like to join us, move your car, park on the street, and then join us. Thank you. To close, I want to thank our sponsors for this evening. Trustmark Bank, Sanderson Farms, the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, Carla and Randy Wall, and all of the institutions and individuals listed in your program. I also want to thank the board of the Mississippi Humanities Council for their support of our work. And I need to give a very big thank you to the staff, Carol Anderson, Molly McMillan, John Spann, Carla Faulkner, and especially Evan Jones, standing there in the back, who have all worked very hard to put on tonight's event. This was truly a team effort. And seriously, finally, I want to thank all of you for being our supporters, for being our partners. We are your Humanities Council, and our work would not be possible without you. Thank you, and good night.